Hello, welcome at HP Cosmos. Welcome to our today's webinar. This webinar is a little special, it's a little different. Today's webinar is about regulatory affairs. So today we talk about some potential risk and we talk about norms, and it's a pleasure to have this topic to you as well as our economic partners and in part also customers here. My name is Dr. Björn Zimmermann. I'm the application specialist at HP Cosmos. Next to me is Mr. Franz Harrer. He's the co-founder of HP Cosmos, and since decades he's the expert not just for technical belongings, but also to regulatory affairs. He will be here for our Q&A section. So in the box somewhere you will find a button about Q&A. Please enter any question if you have, and we will go through it by the end of the webinar. Especially today, it's good to have some support from experts, but also another expert here is Dr. Lücker, Dr. Volker Lücker. He's an attorney at law. He is very specialized in the field of medical products, and he will have the main part of our today. So pleasure to have such kind of support here, and pleasure to present you some specific topic today. As indicated in the headlight of this webinar, today it's about regulatory affairs, and in specific we talk about a risk. I mean, an HP Cosmos treadmill is safe. I don't want to spread any confusion or to any kind of fear. A treadmill is safe, but to fulfill this we have many different measures to provide safe products. The treadmill is a machine, you need to know. It's simple. Okay, that's a simple phrase. A treadmill is a machine, and from any machine there is a potential risk. That's the same for a car or a power drill. The same applies also for a treadmill. That a treadmill can be risky, maybe you have heard about it from the market, you have heard from the news. So just to give you 3 examples, there are some magazines, product testing magazines, like a German magazine called Stiftung Warentest, which is like a watchdog. They recently tested 11 treadmills, simple treadmills, online shopping treadmills for home use, and they found out not all the treadmills are safe, actually. On the other hand, to estimate or to see the potential risk of treadmills, there are research papers available. Research papers, in this case, with the potential risk for children of hand burn. So children, for example, they have a significant rate to get injury or injuries on a treadmill. Number 1 in that study, in that paper, is if a children is touching a hot stove. But number 2 is already a treadmill, or treadmills are. And also the risk can be observed and can be, let's say, identified from notified bodies, but also from authorities like the FDA in the United States, and they will come up with product recalls from time to time. They are important, and they are just simply indicating a potential risk of the treadmills. Not all the treadmills on the market are medical devices. Most of the treadmills, and also in those papers and the product testings, they are fitness equipment, they are home use equipment. So I would estimate like 90% or even more of the treadmills on the market are non-medical devices. But technically, they are about all the same. They have an electronic motor, they have a belt, and the motor is driving the belt. And the belt itself is driving the subject. So, and this is a very important topic, and Dr. Lücker will also explain this a little deeper from the pure texts in the norms, in the MDR, for example, in this regulation. But to understand the risk that arises from a medical product, or let's say in other words, the MDR, which is the relevant regulation here in Europe, Also applies in other territories, not applies in other territories, but is other territories are also looking into the MDR and are focusing and are doing the same kind of regulations. In the MDR, there's a certain scheme, a certain rule or different rules. And according to each rule, if this is applicable or not, you can identify the risk class of a medical product. There are risk class 1 or risk class 2 or 3. One rule, rule number 9, says, in other words, if an active device is transmitting energy to the subject means a person, or could be a limb or a tissue. If this is the case, if an active device is transmitting energy to the subject, it's a device of the risk class 2. And that a treadmill is transferring energy, for us, it's clear. But just to demonstrate it very simply, and again, all the treadmills, and the most treadmills on the world, they are about the same. They have an electronic controlled motor, they have the belt, and the belt in turn will drive the subject. That means the energy from the device will be transferred to the body. So this is very simple. This does not really look like the intended purpose of a treadmill, but to overcome this, also here on the treadmill, this kind of passive movement of energy transfer always happens with each single stride. That means at the initial phase, at the contact phase, the belt is also moving my legs to a certain amount. Not fully, but to a certain amount. There's always an energy transfer from the device to the subject. And this happens with each single stride. When walking, there's always an influence of the machine to the subject. You have seen me being moved, passively moved on the belt by the treadmill. And just to estimate like the kinetic forces or the kinetic energy that happens here is, my body weight is like 100 kilogram. If the speed is about 3 kilometers per hour, the device or the kinetic energy that appears is about 34 joule. So there's a real measure of it. It can be measured, simply speaking. 34 joule is roundabout, if you have a weight of 1 kilogram and you drop it from 3 meters height, the impact is about 30 joule. Just to give you an estimate about the forces, the kinetic energy in this case. Okay, this was the demonstration just to explain the background of the rule number 9. But now I'm happy to hand over to Dr. Lücker, and he will go a little deeper into some, let's say, hard facts and some background texts. Dr. Lücker.
Yeah, Björn Zimmermann, thank you very much for the introduction, and it's my pleasure to be a part of this webinar today. And I'd like to share my PowerPoint with you in a second. Let me just... So now you can see my slides, hopefully. And what's the task today? My name is Volker Lücker. I'm a lawyer, specialized on medical device law since more than 25 years. And the new European regulation for medical devices dated 2017, which comes into force in 2021, also has new regulations for distributors. And this will be the main topic today, to show you a little bit in 20, 25, 30 minutes, the time I have, what's about the distributor for medical devices. And I like to share you an example with the treadmills, Björn Zimmermann already demonstrated the mode of action of such devices. And I will go to the regulatory issues, how to deal those treadmills under medical device law. So as a lawyer, you might be familiar with the disclaimer. It's quite clear. This is only information, generic information. And it's my copyright. But anyway, there is no direct legal advice with these PowerPoint presentation today. I think this is quite clear. So what's the 3 points I want to show to you? First, what is a distributor or importer under the European medical device regulation? We have new definitions of that, economic actors, and the definition between distributor and importer is quite important to understand the different obligations. And then just briefly, what is a medical device? It's a very generic definition, and there are a lot of products falling into medical device definition. And I want to show to you on the example of a treadmill, when and why can that product be a medical device? And if it's a medical device, I just like to show you what is the classification of medical devices, also on the example of treadmills. So let's start with the definitions. And Article 2 of the Medical Device Regulation has a lot of definitions. And so in number 33 and number 34, MDR, we will have the definition of the importer and the definition of the distributor. What's the difference? Importer means any neutral or legal person established in the union. So it's the person in the union. And that is a decisive difference between importer and distributor, places a device from a third country on the European market, places a device on the European market. And on the other side, the distributor is also natural or legal person in the European Union, but he is a person in the supply chain. In the supply chain, and what is the action the distributor is doing? It's described as make a product available on the market. So there is a difference between placing on the market and making available on the market. And the difference is quite easy to understand. Placing on the market is the first time when a device is made available on the market. So it's the starting point of the supply chain. Placing on the market can be done either by the manufacturer in the European market. If you have a manufacturer, a European manufacturer on the European market, that manufacturer places products on the market because it's the starting point of the supply chain. If there is an outside manufacturer not located in the European market, we need somebody in the market from whom the supply chain starts on, and that's the importer. The distributor is then each level and each person in that supply chain. So after the manufacturer or the importer, the device will be forwarded to any other person. Those person placing the product or making the product on the market available are called distributors. And the distributor in the supply chain, as well as the importer, has different obligations under medical device regulation to keep the safety of the device and to keep devices on the market which are in line with the regulatory aspects of the MDR. And in that chart, I just like to show you briefly the different obligations. There are two articles for those who like to read it later on. It's the Article 13 of the MDR for importer, and it's the Article 14 for the distributor, where all those obligations are described. in that chart, it's more about briefly summarized. So what has both parts to do when they make the products available on the market or place it on the market first? They have to check whether the products are CE marked. You might know that the European market lives from the CE mark. The CE mark is that sign given by the manufacturer and on the responsibility of the manufacturer for all products that are marketable under the European legislation. So a CE mark is required, otherwise a product can't be placed on the market, can't be distributed, can't be made available. So each distributor and importer has first to check, do we have the CE mark? And this is also a very important document in the legislation frame in Europe, a declaration of conformity. That declaration of conformity is a written document by the manufacturer in which the manufacturer describes and established that he kept all the requirements, that he respects all the legal aspects, and that he has checked the specific device, that everything is fine and the general safety and performance requirements are met. This must be explained and written, declared in the declaration of conformity by the manufacturer. So those two formal aspects has to be checked by each distributor and each importer. Second point is a little bit differentiated between importer, first point in the supply chain from a foreign country, from a manufacturer of a foreign country, and the distributor. Let's start with the importer. The importer is asked to add in the labeling own information about the importer. The idea behind that is that each user of a medical device, which comes from a foreign manufacturer, has to know where is the importer or who is the importer, because the importer has different obligations regarding the product liability. And therefore, the importer has to bring his name on the product, either on the label, on the marking, or as an additional document in the package or something like that. The way is not decisive. Decisive is that at the end of the day, the user can identify the importer, and the importer has also to check whether the manufacturer is known. So is it a real manufacturer, or is it a faulty, or any other unknown suspect company, and is a European representative appointed. Each manufacturer from outside the European market has to have a European authorized representative, or called EU rep. And this EU rep is also to be identified on the label or in the instruction for use or on the device, so that everybody knows we have a foreign manufacturer, we have an EU representative, and we have the importer. So these three persons must be identified on outside manufactured products. And on the distributor side, the distributor has to check for each product which comes from outside the European market if the importer is identified. So has the importer given his name, his address on the device, on the package, or on a supporting document. Then on the third level, each of the importer or distributor has to double check whether the labeling is in line with the requirement of the MDR, and whether the instruction for use, IFU, whether the instruction for use is there and is in the language in which the distributor wants to place the product or wants to give the product to the end user. For example, in Germany, it is needed to have the instruction for use in German language. Otherwise, the distributor is not allowed to give any product, any medical device to the end user. Next point, UDI, unique device identification. This is a very specific identification of each single device, which can be a little bit compared with the serial number of machines or something like that. With that number, with that UDI, the specific product can be detected and can be traced about the whole situation, starting from production, from the manufacturer, from the placing of the market until the end user. And the distributor is obliged to check and to verify, is there a UDI on the product? Is it marked on the product? And is it an existing UDI or a fantasy name? And on the other side, for the importer, we have some registration obligations. Each importer of a medical device must be registered himself in the European database called EUDAMED, the European database EUDAMED. Each economic operator is registered there. Not the distributor, but the importer has to be registered there. And he has also to double check whether the manufacturer is registered in EUDAMED before he is allowed to place the product on the market. So you can see the MDR has several obligations for importer and distributor in the supply chain, which are not trivial, which are not easy to check. The CE mark might be checked, but the question is, what's about the declaration of conformity? And what's about the product at all? And it's interesting that we have already legal procedures about exactly that question. With the European Court of Justice in 2024, which is also called the Catani case, it's a pending case with the European Court of Justice. Two different questions has to be answered, which were addressed to the court, has to be answered by the court. And it will be very, very interesting to see what comes up. What are the two questions which are to be decided by the European Court? First question is a distributor obliged, pursuant to Article 14, that's what I'm referring to check whether the product which the distributor makes available on the market is to be regarded as a medical device. So is the distributor obliged to check whether the product actually he will make available on the market is a medical device, yes or not, regardless what the manufacturer say. The specific Catani case is the manufacturer placed the machine on the European market, and the distributor was asked by a competitor, well, this is a medical device, that's not a machine, so please double check. And that has to be decided by the European Court, whether a distributor has to check what's the category of a product which the distributor wants to place on the market, which he wants to make available on the market. So you can't rely on what the manufacturers say, it's a machine, it's food, it's whatever, cosmetic or just a fitness product. The distributor has to check, maybe it's a medical device. And if it's a medical device and it's not classified as a medical device with a CE mark, etc., the distributor is not allowed to make it available. And the second question goes deeper into the regulatory issues. The second question is, do the inspection obligations of the distributor, and I show to you the inspection obligation of CE mark, declaration of conformity, UDI, etc., also include the question whether the product is classified correctly. For example, in the specific case, is classified in the risk class 2A. With medical devices, we have 4 different risk classes. The lowest risk class is the class 1. Then we have the second lowest risk class, it's 2A. The higher risk class, the more risk class is 2B, and the highest risk class is class 3. So the conformity assessment procedure depends on the risk class, and the European Court of Justice has to decide whether a distributor is not only obliged to check whether a product is a medical device, regardless what the manufacturer say, but is he also obliged to check whether the classification is okay, class 1, class 2A, 2B, or 3? So that is a really deep into the regulatory issues going question, which is not easy to answer for each distributor, but you have to check, we have to wait what the European Court of Justice will decide on that question. Well, what is the result of the obligation of the distributor to check the conformity of the device? The result is quite clear within the MDR, and I have copied the original text of the MDR in that slide, where a distributor considered or has reason to believe that the device is not in conformity with the requirements of the MDR, the distributor shall not make available that device on the market, which means they have to stop selling it. Which means the distributor cannot just close its eyes and say, well, it's not my product. I'm just in the supply chain. I just forward the product, whatever the manufacturer told me. I'll just place it on the market. I'm just make it available. That's it. That's forbidden. The distributor has to stop selling a product as soon as he considers or as soon as he has reason to believe that the product is not in line with the MDR. And reason to believe that's not in line with the MDR, you have already, if, for example, you know about science literature, if you know about other reports or something like that, which shows to you that device might have a problem. So it's a direct link between the obligations to check the device and the authority to make products on the market or to block or to quarantine products in their own stock. So what is a medical device? To get clear to you, to show when is a product a medical device. And that's part of the definition of medical device under Article 2, number 1 MDR. It says medical devices are any instruments, apparatus, software, or any other article, whether alone or in combination for human being. That's a very important issue. It's for a human being. But next point, it must be for a specific medical purpose. For a specific medical purpose, and the specific medical purpose are diagnostic, prevention, monitoring, prediction, or treatment, or alleviation, or compensation of disease, injury, or disability. So it's a broad range of specific medical purposes. The question is, who decides whether the product is for a following specific medical purpose? And that's a decision which is formally taken by the manufacturer. The manufacturer is the person who decides whether a product will be a medical device because the manufacturer gives him a specific medical purpose or not. But to be sure, it doesn't depend on the title of a product. So it's not decisive whether a manufacturer says, well, that is a machine. However, the manufacturer calls its product is not the decisive issue. Decisive is, what do the manufacturer tells you in the instruction for use, in advertising material, or in any other announcement, regardless what the title of the product is. And that's the Catani case. The Catani case is the manufacturer says, this is a machine, and then describes that machine as specific machine for dental users, for dental health care, using with patients. And therefore, the court decided, well, it's a medical device, regardless what the manufacturer say, because the announcement of the manufacturer to be for dental health care, to be treated for patients, it's a classic medical purpose, regardless whether it's called a machine or not a machine. So that's really decisive. You have to decide whether a product is a device or a medical device, not on the title the manufacturer gives that device, but what is the content of all the information the manufacturer gives regarding the purpose of the device or regarding the intended use of that device. And therefore, you have to see all the documents, screen the documents, what is the expected or what is the intended purpose the manufacturer gives the specific product. And when we talk about machinery, and Björn Zimmermann referred to that, at least a treadmill, for example, is a machine. Machine is something which moves which moves bodies. And so, yes, for clear, a treadmill is a machine. But what's the decisive line between medical devices and machinery? And there's an answer in the MDR in Article 1, Section 12. Article 1, Section 12 clearly said it is possible that devices are also machines under the regulation for machine. It's the Directive 2006/42 EC. By the way, we have a new machinery regulation on the horizon coming in force soon. But anyway, that might not be the task today. Decisive and important is that it is possible to be both, to be a medical device and to have aspects also regulated in the machinery directive. And in that case, Article 1, Section 12 clearly states, well, it is a medical device, whether it has machinery aspects, yes or not, but additional to the general safety and performance requirements, which has to be checked under the medical device regulation for each medical device, such devices, which have also a machinery aspects, has also to be checked where a hazard relevant under the directive exists, which meets the essential health and safety requirement as far as they are more specific. And the machinery addresses more or less general health aspects. And Björn showed you, when you are on a treadmill, you do not walk, the treadmill will throw you out. This is a risk of the treadmill, for example, to get problems with the belt or something like that, which is a typical machinery aspect and hazard, which has to be dealt under the requirements of the machinery directive. The medical device regulation more focused on the health issue. What is to do to ensure that nobody will be harmed during the treatment, during the speed, for example, of the belt, etc. So medical devices has to be both. Can be a machinery, and it has to be respected the general health and safety requirements, but also the medical device regulation, and it can be both, but at least it's a medical device. So when is a treadmill a medical device? We learned it's decisive what the manufacturer says. And let's have a look, for example, on HP Cosmos products. What's about those products? And I've just copied a part of the instruction for use where clearly stated the intended use in Section 3.1. And here you can see the medical relation of that treadmill. It's not just for fitness. We have recreational fitness. Recreational fitness. Recreational means we bring the patient back. Bringing a patient back means we have had any disease, we have had any operation problems, we have any problems on a health situation of the patient, bringing him back. We make not fitness only, but recreation fitness. Gait training, for example, or stressing device for neuromuscular, biomechanical measurements, for cardiovascular measurements, etc. So there's a clear medical specific intended purpose. And in each case where you find those informations in the instruction for use or in the declaration of a treadmill, that treadmill has medicinal or medical intended purposes. It's a medical device, regardless whether classified or categorized by the manufacturer as machine or not, it is a medical device, and a distributor, you can't make it available on the market. Second question of the European Court of Justice is, what about the classification? And Björn Zimmermann also referred to the respective classification, and the classification rules are given in Annex 8 of the MD8. Annex 8 of the MDR gives, 22 different rules. 22 different rules, and the section active devices, Rule 9 to 13, deals with active devices, and here is the definition of active device. Active device means a device that operation of which depends on a source of energy other than generated by the human body. So we have that with a treadmill, and which acts by changing the density of or converting that energy. And we just have seen in the demonstration of Björn quite very clearly where we have exactly that changing of the density, or better said, the converting of that energy by the belt to the specific subject. So each treadmill is, if it's a medical device with a medical purpose, it's directly seen as an active medical device. Rule 9 to 13 apply. Rule 9 to 13, what started Rule 9 to 13, and you can see by the first sentence of Rule 9, at the end of the day, a classification as Class 2 is obligated. There is no other possibility less than Class 2. Whether it's Class 2A or Class 2B might be decided by that sentence, but less or under Class 2, there's no way out. What's written in Rule 9? All active therapeutic devices, we talked about recreation training, we talked about stressing, etc. So active devices intended to administer or exchange energy are classified 2A. So all products, all treadmills are 2A, unless their characteristics are such that they may administer energy to or exchange energy with the human body in a potential hazard way, taking account the nature, density, site of application, blah, 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 in which case they are 2B. So this is also something which can apply to treadmills when you talk about not only a treadmill, but when you talk about, for example, additional functions of that treadmill, which has side pushing or something like that to get more energy, sudden energy to the patient, to get his reaction, to treat or to train his reaction, etc. This is a potential hazard when somebody falls down or falls on the treadmill. So it can be discussed whether that additional function will push a treadmill up to Class 2B. Class 2B, Class 2A. So it depends on the additional function. I like to show you for HP Cosmos a formal decision of the Federal German Institute for Medical Devices, which is the highest administrative authority in Germany, which decided on a specific simple, I have to say simple, generic treadmill, the treadmill Pluto from HP Cosmos, that is a medical device Class 2A. So we have in Germany a clear line that the treadmill with generic medical aspects is already a medical device Class 2A, which means that as a distributor, you have to double check what's the specific intended area. What does it mean, the classification? So for what idea do we classify medical devices? And the difference is what the manufacturer has to do and who will double check what the manufacturer has done. For Class 1 devices, the manufacturer makes the performs the conformity assessment procedure on its own. So class 1 devices are also called self-certified, means the manufacturer runs the conformity assessment procedure, makes the technical documentation, writes the declaration of conformity, and everything is fine because they are low risk product and everything is fine and we trust to the manufacturer. With higher risk products, class 2A, 2B, and class 3, the legislator in Europe says, well, we do not rely on the manufacturer's conformity assessment only. We will double check this. And double check means the manufacturer has to involve a notified body. Notified body is an institution in Europe which is qualified with qualified staff to double check the technical documentation, to double check the quality management system, to double check products, whether they are in line with the specific requirements for that medical devices under MDR. And that additional approval procedure ends up with a certificate, which means that medical devices other than class 1 always need a certificate by a notified body, which makes it more complex, which makes it more expensive, and which makes it long-term for the manufacturer, because that additional approval by the notified body takes time, takes money, and makes it quite complicated because, as you might know by yourself, if you have somebody to double check what you have done, there will be always some faults found by the other one looking over your documents, looking over your quality management system, etc. So the difference between class 1 and the other classes are quite important for the manufacturers and in line with the obligations of the distributors are quite important to double check. Do we have a class 2A? Remember, that's the Catani case with European Court of Justice. Is it a class 2A device? And if the distributor has to decide yes or not, he has also to decide, okay, the manufacturer must show not only the declaration of conformity, but he has to have also a certificate from a notified body. And you can see it on the CE mark. Each medical device which is compared by a certificate of a notified body has not only the CE mark, but the CE mark is accompanied by the identification number of the notified body. 4 digits. 4 digits as identification number for notified body. Each European notified body has its own 4 digits, and the CE mark must be followed by the 4 digits of the notified body so that everybody can check, and also the distributor, whether the manufacturer has really accompanied its conformity assessment procedure by a notified body and by which notified body. It's a database on the European Commission side, on the website of the European Commission, so-called NANDO database, and that NANDO database presents to each single digit which notified body is it, and do that notified body has the authority to check the specific product, for example, medical devices, implants, active devices, or whatever. That is also shown on that database. That is what I wanted to show to you within the brief time about the regulatory aspects new for distributors. And I was taught that we do not have not only a European attendees of that specific webinar. So I like to announce that the European system with the MDR is specific Europe. Yes, specific that. But we have several worldwide markets which are looking quite very close on the system of category of medical devices, of classifying of medical devices, and therefore what I presented to you can also be taken not only one by one, but almost one by one for several other outside European market for the generic classification and categorization of products as the example treadmills. So that's what I wanted to tell you. Thank you very much for your attention. And if there are questions, Björn, please raise that questions to me. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Lücker, for this very impressive overview. As I said, about this very specific topic. You are the expert. This is not my particular background, and probably most of our distributors, partners, even customers, they do not really know about the hard facts and the background that we take. And as I said, we do a lot of different measures to provide safe treadmills on the market. And this is not technical belongings, but also regulatory affairs a lot. So as a reminder, please use the Q&A section to enter any questions. And but before we go through the first questions, just a quick overview is the wrong word, but I'd like to hand over to Mr. Harrer just to clarify why we are talking today about this topic and why this topic is important. Mr. Harrer.
Thank you very much. Thank you also very much, Dr. Lücker, for this interesting presentation. I met Dr. Lücker, I think, about 15 years ago in the medical device forum at the TUV in Munich. And since then, we have met at least once a year in his facility where he made some presentations. And I have attended the medical device forum at TUV Munich for many, many years. So it's always interesting to get the latest information, especially the transition from the MDD to MDR was very challenging for everybody. HP Cosmos had the first MDR audit already in the year 2022. So we have been ahead of time also for this regulation. And the presentations and the expert statements of Dr. Lücker also helped us to be ahead of time in that specific aspect. HP Cosmos has a long history for medical treadmills, and in the year 1998, when the MDD came into power, we have done the classification based on 2B in communication with our notified body, in communication with lots of experts from the field. And since then, we had class 2B as our classification protocol for motor-powered treadmills. And we asked also some experts from universities. We have done a mailing recently, also ahead of this seminar in the invitation. And in November, Dr. Lücker and his colleague, Mr. Schenkewitz, they made an expert statement, especially on those issues which have been covered by Dr. Lücker just now. And later on, after this webinar, we will send out again a mailing with hyperlinks to these expert statements. And like Dr. Zimmermann said, we are happy to answer some questions now. And a few of the questions which I recently faced after the mailing, I would like to read for you now and give you some information about this already. So which regulation has priority for medical devices if the medical device is also a machine, the MDR or the machinery directive? And part of it has been answered already by Dr. Lücker. There is basically no priority. We have to cover both. We have to see, do we have to make a Delta report? At the end, HP Cosmos is also making the sports treadmills. And for sports treadmills, the machinery directive also applies, even if the intended purpose is not medical. So the machinery directive and the machinery regulation, we have to make a declaration of conformity anyway, no matter if it's for sports and for medical. And since we do the whole issues and safety aspects of the machinery declaration, the machinery regulation, we cover everything of that for medical and for fitness devices. And one question is, do we have to issue a separate declaration of conformity based on the machinery directive? If it's a medical device, no. We can put the machinery directive into the declaration of conformity for medical devices. So the declaration of conformity covers the MDR, covers the machinery directive, covers the standards like the European standard for treadmills, the EN 957-1-6, and covers the EMC directive, and of course also the biocompatibility and ROHS. So one declaration of conformity covers all applicable European regulations in one format. You can find on our website how this looks like for HP Cosmos treadmills. This was a frequently asked question. Another question.
Can I maybe? Sorry, I would just jump into it. Well, that's the same with the CE mark. So you do not expect more than one CE mark on a device just because there are several regulations or directives on the European area which might meet the specific product. And the machinery is one example which ends up with the CE mark, is also the low voltage directive, for example, or something like that. So we find the CE mark on each mobile, on each monitor, etc. But there are different regulations which are met. And it's only one CE mark on a medical device or on whatever, which covers all. So the manufacturer is required to check what decisive regulations do my specific product has to meet. Not only the medical device, if we have a medical device, it's the leading regulation, but there are some horizontal regulations in the machinery, low voltage, etc. is also one, and everything is covered by one CE mark. So you have no 2 or 3 or 4 CE marks.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this brings up a quite common misunderstanding. People many times they just trust the CE mark, but they do not question, is the CE mark covering all applicable regulations, like for medical device, for electromagnetic compliance, for machinery, for all other applicable regulations. And this is the responsibility now also of the economic operators, like importers, EU representatives, and distributors. And the Eudermate database gives us a very, very good overview. In November last year, the European Commission announced that the Eudermate database is now functional. It has been working for quite some years. So HP Cosmos already registered the treadmills in the Eudermate database, I think 3 years ago. Or even 4 years ago, but now it is officially declared functional, and the people, the operators have 6 months time to register their name with a single registration number and register their devices into the Eudermate database. So all economic operators are advised to do these registrations within the next couple of months. And this is also one reason why we made this seminar today, because there is work to do for you as economic operators.
Yeah, and just one additional remark also, when we just talk about what type of product do we have, you can't see it by the CE mark. You can't identify it by the CE mark. That's correct. You have to have more information. The European database, Eudermate, may be one, but the first point, and that's decisive because that is also regulated in Article 14 MDR, the declaration of conformity is the important point. In the declaration of conformity, the manufacturer has to declare what type of product do we have and to which regulations do I declare the compliance. And then you can see, is it just a machinery, a machine, or is it a medical device, or is it whatever device or product or whatever, that has to be shown in the declaration of conformity. And that is the reason why the legislator in the MDR asked the distributor not only to check the CE mark, but also to check the declaration of conformity to be clear, do we have a medical device, yes or not?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Another question is the decision from the BfArM, so from the highest German authority for medical devices, is this binding for all treadmills on the market? And the clear answer is yes and no. Yes, because BfArM also confirmed the Rule 9, classification Rule 9, is applicable for motor-powered treadmills. What Dr. Zimmermann showed, the energy exchange, the energy transfer from the medical device to the human body is existing. The experts from the university's biomechanic field also confirmed it's applicable. So our understanding is this is decisive and applicable for all motor-powered treadmills. And no, because not all treadmills are the same. Why is HP Cosmos classifying 2B when the BfArM says 2A? The reason is very simple. We wanted to double check with the BfArM. We asked them for a very simple treadmill, no high speed, no extra options like perturbation, no extra options like a RoboWalk gait trainer. So the simple treadmill has no higher potential risk. We do not go for 30 km per hour. We do not include RoboWalk gait trainer. For this question, we asked the BfArM. And the decision for class 2A is okay. But HP Cosmos treadmills, we also offer perturbation as an option to retrofit. We offer high speed as an option, and we offer the gait trainer, the RoboWalk, where some extra forces apply during the rehabilitation. And that's why HP Cosmos voluntarily classifies as 2B, because we have additional higher potential risks involved. So 2A is a standard treadmill, 2B is a special treadmill with special features, and that's why the decision for 2A is not binding for all treadmills. But it's a good example, and the Rule 9 is confirmed. And this is what I wanted to state on this decision from BfArM.
Okay, maybe last question that appears up front once we send out our mailing. So HP Cosmos is manufacturing in Germany, but we are distributing our products worldwide. And in different other territories like North America, South America, Asia, Oceania, so Australia, they may have other rules. And for sure, MDR does not really apply because they are not the European Union. So they may have other rules. And the particular question was, let me rephrase it, which countries worldwide follow more the European classification rules for medical devices? So similar to the EU MDR.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Some countries can be listed is Switzerland, is Iceland, is Liechtenstein, Norway, Turkey, Australia, Israel, Singapore, and Saudi Arabia. They have similar rules, but they do not classify as 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. They call it A to D. But quite a number of countries outside the European Union, they use 100% the same classifications, 1, 2A, 2B, and 3. And from 2A or 1M, you need a notified body involved. So all the documentation which has been made by the manufacturer, they are audited. The quality management system is audited by a notified body. So everything becomes slower, but at the end it becomes safer. And we are very much concerned about the safety of our distributors, also about our service partners, especially when, for example, a service engineer is asked by the customer, am I allowed to connect this ECG to that terminal? He should know what is the answer, if the answer is yes or no. So we help our partners for these kind of issues, and feel free to involve us in such questions.
Okay, looks like we are perfect on time. 5 o'clock in Germany. Maybe you've noticed it's getting a little dark here, but we could continue. We have enough light, but today's webinar is over. Thank you one more time, Dr. Lücker, for this great presentation and overview and explanation about the hard facts from the MDR and other, let's say, articles and other norms. The idea is to provide enough information, digestible information, to our distributors and to our partners worldwide, and to better understand why we are doing what we are doing. And we are doing perfect treadmills, nice treadmills, safe treadmills. And this is a big effort sometimes, but we are proud of it, and we are happy to have you as our distributors and customers worldwide. Thank you one more time. Thank you, Mr. Harrer. Thank you, Dr. Lücker. Thank you for all the participants here.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.